Bill, tell us where you were when you first heard about the events of September 11th and what made you question the official story.
Well, Monica and Bill and I were hanging out. I was in a classroom.
Much like the president.
Yes, but I was actually, well, I wasn't as cognizant of what was going on because I really didn't understand it. And he just sat there like, not only did he not understand it, but it really didn't concern him very much, which is really kind of curious because he was in that building for 20 minutes. And he can't be in that building. It's the one place in the entire world where he can't be because it's publicly known that he's there. And so if we're under attack, and already two planes have smashed into a building, that would indicate we are under some sort of attack. And he's less than 5 minutes away from the international airport. He's not gotten out of the building. That means Secret Service knows that he's not targeted because they don't ask permission to get him out of that building. It's just standard security.
And by not taking him out of the building, they're not only putting his life at risk, but the people in the building.
Yeah, but who cares about that?
Well,
they were only
nobody
kids,
apparently.
Okay.
Although they knew it wasn't a threat.
Behind a bunch of children and use them as a shield.
No, it's not.
But anyways, so by the time the second plane flew into the building, and I could not express in front of my class the questions that I was having, but I was definitely thinking over and over again, where's the air cover? Where's our air cover? And I remember distinctly watching the television with my class, and Dan Rather came out 2 or 3 times assuring me and the rest of the world that interceptors were in the air and closing rapidly on that plane that was heading towards D.C. And so that's very curious because I've never seen anything more about that. Then the other question that I had was, I kept waiting to see images of a plane smashing into the Pentagon, and I never did. Although a lot of people have that image in their head, and I think it's because they saw so much computer-generated imagery of it that they take it as it's a false impression. They think it actually happened.
I talked to people that have said, I've seen that. I said, you haven't seen it, show me that it's not there.
Right.
But people think that they've seen it. It's interesting.
And then, of course, Newsweek and Time and other publications had illustrations, maybe 3-4 panels showing you what the execution of that plane, but nobody ever saw it, but some people have that imprint on them. And I find that to be extremely telling about the propaganda capabilities of this society that we're living in. It's very, very sad. The other thing was that I realized very shortly, because I didn't see any film footage of it, that there was none being shown to the American public. And I didn't understand that either, because I know that there's satellites that sit right over that building. I know that once it violates D.C. airspace, and we were looking for that plane for over 40 minutes, that finally when it did come down, supposedly, that there should have been all these cameras recording the images within the building itself. In every one of those corridors, there are several cameras set up to monitor every inch of that building inside and out. They monitor that building complex in infrared, in microwave, sonically, whatever. They monitor it. Besides the dedicated satellites that just have optics that are over that complex. I've seen images from hundreds of miles up in space. You can see the grains of woodwork on the park benches that are outside, or the leaves on the trees. And then to realize that also the building was ringed with cameras, and that there were cameras that we know that the film was confiscated from. So if you believe that that could take place and there's no clear images of it taking place, you will believe anything.
I talked to a gentleman earlier over there who told me that, of course they can't release these images. It's for national security. What do you have to say about that?
Well, number one, he's brainwashed about that. There would be no such national security of them not showing the film.
There would be what would be the problem of showing us the image if it existed?
If we're talking about some kind of the schematic of the Pentagon, I would suggest that you go with just about any reliable illustrated source, or you can probably go right now on the Real Life Time and tap into the satellite.
Right. There's no information that would be in those tapes that would pose a security risk. Correct?
Exactly. And I can see people jumping out of airplanes constantly, or out of those 2 buildings constantly, and yet I can't see a plane smashing into a building. I mean, what kind of national security is that? It's a matter of national security that those planes were intercepted and they weren't. Okay? If you believe that much in national security, then you should have high esteem for the air cover that we provide, both in monitoring and in interception. And if you think that by muttering this cadence of national security, because that's what the administration always says about anything, okay? National security. As soon as you hear that,
The only reason they need not to give us anything.
That's not when to stop thinking. That's when to start thinking. Because
Every time
when
you hear
start
those
thinking
words.
in a multi-dimensional format, national security, at what levels could the film of a plane violating our airspace over D.C., what could that possibly be for national security? Okay? If you want to say because it's demoralizing or something, I would venture to you that everything else that took place that day was demoralizing, including our ineptness and responses, but also the fact that there are no images. That's what you should find to be so much moralistically disturbing. And one more point. Remember that they allow, to this day, the first responders to die from what they knew at the time. It is on public record that they withheld that information. There are thousands of our responders who this day are receiving medical treatment and are dying because of it.
And who had to fight to get any kind of compensation for this.
They're still fighting for it. The thing is they were placed in harm's way knowingly, they were lied to, and they died, and they are continuing to die.
They were sorely used.
And so that is proof positive to you that this administration will lie to the American public and kill Americans, even if it's not in their best interest.
It astounds me when you talk to people and they say the American government wouldn't do that to its own people. The government couldn't do that. There seems to be a huge disconnect when people have to think in terms of, yes, your government would harm you, and they would do it willingly as long as they profit from it. But it seems hard to...
Prima facie, though, is the first responders. Because all I had to do was just say, look, we know it's contaminated, but here's some respirators, here's some filters.
Oh, no equipment, no.
And if they did hand it out, it was not the proper equipment, or it wasn't really encouraged to use it, because you'll see everybody not using it.
And then what did they tell us? They told us to do what? To go shopping.
Right.
Who benefits?
So that leaves maybe 4 or 5 houses